Cincinnati Bengals had 14 days between the Chargers game and the Steelers game to figure things out on defense. 14 days, and they couldn't figure out how to tackle. They couldn't figure out how to put a pass rush together. They couldn't figure out, make the list, make the whole list, whatever you want. They couldn't do anything against a quarterback who was decidedly washed up, against a receiving core that outside of George Pickens, you can't name any of them, and against a running back who didn't get his final rookie year option picked up because he stunk for most of the time. He's had a nice year this year. At any rate, at home in a have-to-have-it game, that's the performance we got. That's the Cincinnati Bengals in 2024. I'm going to try not to lose my mind here, but a 44-38 loss. 44 points for the opposing team, 38 for the Bengals. 7 coming via our guy Cam Taylor-Britt. And a loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers to make it all the worse. The worst football weekend in the regular season in my life just happened. I'm thankful you're here and along for the ride with me. You are in the jungle. I'm Matt Edwards. Let's get after it. Let's not hold back here. Let's not pull any punches. Let's get this all out of the system at once. The Bengals get absolutely worked. At home, once again, Joe Burrow is trying to play hero ball down the stretch, and it's just not enough because the team around him, especially on the defensive side of the ball, sucks. The defense is unbelievably bad. The Pittsburgh Steelers had 447 yards of offense through 3 quarters. That's the most they've had all year, and it took them 3 quarters to get there. What'd they do during the bye week? You put Jordan Battle in at safety instead of Von Bell. Woo! Exciting stuff. I know they're banged up, but you got to try something different. And once again, we're going to talk about Lou Anarumo here in a second. That's going to be kind of the theme of the show today. Will heads roll after this one or after the season now because the playoffs are done? I've been banging the positivity drum as much as anyone. That's not happening. They're not going to make it to the postseason, and that's fine. Whatever. It's not fine. It drives me insane that Joe Burrow is literally having one of the, great quarterback seasons that we've seen in NFL history. This is like a top 30 season. He's great. And they're 4-8. Same record as the Chicago Bears, who just fired their head coach. Is the same coming in Cincinnati. We'll get into it. Whose heads will roll? Let's start with Lou Anarumo, the aforementioned defensive coordinator. Been in Cincinnati since 2019. He had a couple really nice years there, 2021, 2022. I think it's fair to say that Lou Anarumo is a very average defensive coordinator. He's not as good as we once thought. He's not the Lou Dini we thought he was. But he's also probably not as bad as this season has been. He is a chef who is as good as the ingredients with which you give him to cook, and this year, those ingredients have stunk. When the defense was really sharp there for a couple years, we probably didn't realize how good DJ Reader was. We probably didn't realize Trey Hendrickson was developing into the best pass rusher the franchise has ever seen. Sam Hubbard was in his prime. BJ Hill was a guy who we didn't expect much from because we traded him for Billy Price, who was a total bust. He ended up being really good. We didn't know Chidobe Awuzie was going to be really an awesome corner there for about a year and a half before he got hurt. We didn't know Eli Apple was going to catch lightning in a bottle. We didn't know that the second-round safety from Wake Forest was going to become the best safety in the league. We didn't know that the ingredients he was using were so damn fresh at the time that it was impossible to screw up that meal. That's what Chef Lou was at the time. He was a guy who had some phenomenal ingredients. You can't mess that up. And we know probably about it, we definitely overrated him a little bit in that stretch. Now, fast forward to this year, opposite story. Some of the guys just aren't what they used to be. Obviously, Jesse Bates, DJ Reader's gone, Sam Hubbard, it just age and injuries have caught up to him. DJ, just outside of Trey Hendrickson, he's got nothing to work with. He's got probably the worst or some of the worst defensive players as starters in football. Bad ingredients, bad defense. That's what it boils down to. He is an average defensive coordinator. Give him good guys, he'll give you a great defense. Give him bad guys, he'll give you a bad defense. The proof is in the pudding here, right? Do we need any more Chef Lou analogies to go with this one? You look at the guys he had when they were good versus now, this is what he is. So does he stick around? I don't think he should. With the biggest reason, there's two, this year, the great coaches find ways to patch their holes up. That has not happened this year. They've got worse after the bye. And I understand he lost 2 of his top 3 corners. That stinks. I understand he probably wanted to keep DJ Reader. That stinks. This is the NFL. You got to figure things out. Guys are not getting better under him the way they should. Simple as that. He's not going to turn chicken into chicken salad. Some guys can do that. He's not that. He's an average defensive coordinator. Is what it is. And he caught lightning in a bottle there for a couple years, and the Bengals had an awesome run, largely due in part to that. And he seems to have some sort of hex over Patrick Mahomes and Derrick Henry, and that's awesome, and that got the Bengals an AFC championship. That's great. But you can go out there right now, and you can find the next stud defensive coordinator, and you can say, I don't know who the guys are. I don't know who the hot position coaches on defense are out there, but you can say to him, look, we got an offense that's going to put up 30-plus more often than not. The offense is ready to win a Super Bowl. You come in here and make a name for yourself, you be the defensive coordinator on a team that's making a Super Bowl run, you're going to get looks. They can get a hot guy. That's the thing right now. They can get a guy who knows what he's doing. Because this is not a team that needs to rebuild their roster on defense, but they're not starting from scratch here. They've got an elite pass rusher. They've got a guy in Cam Taylor-Britt. We saw a couple plays on Sunday against the Steelers. The pick 6, you saw him lay out Calvin Austin. He's got talent. I don't know that he's got number 1 cornerback talent. He can do some things. Jordan Battle plays safety an interesting way. He's a hard hitter. Logan Wilson's awesome. B.J. Hill seems to still have some gas in the tank. This is not an unattractive job. Maybe Lou Anarumo's a little bit tired of being there. Maybe he's a little worn out. I wouldn't blame him. He's had it hard the last couple years. You know, all the money being spent on the other side of the ball. Meanwhile, he gets Sheldon Rankins and Geno Stone. It's tough. But as much as the argument right now, there's 2 big arguments to me really for getting rid of Lou Anarumo. One, his guys just aren't progressing. The guys they're drafting not really turning into what they should. You look at DJ Turner and Cam Taylor-Britt, 2 second-round picks. Neither of them are blowing you away as a starting cornerback. Neither one of those guys. What are we going to see out of Chris Jenkins? He looks solid at times this year, but given the track record, do you have a lot of hope of where things are going to go? Jordan Battle was a 3rd-round pick. He was benched for pretty much the first half of the season. There's just been too many defensive guys who have not became what you want them to become, and whose shoulders does that fall on? Guys, it just hasn't worked. It's time to start over. It's time to start with someone who you can look at and say, hey, look what we have on the other side of the ball. They're going to put up 35 a week. You come over here, you're the defensive coordinator on a team with that offense, you're going to win a lot of games. People are going to know your name. You're going to get a shot to put on tape and to put on national TV 5 times a year that you can run a defense, and we all know what that leads to. It leads to being a head coach, and that's what all these guys want, right? So that's the argument. Lou Anarumo, we appreciate you. You've outperformed what anyone thought you could do. People remember that fiasco of even getting a coaching staff in 2019. But I think it's time to move on. It's time to move on. This franchise right now has too good of a player at quarterback to sit around and kind of just wait and see what happens. So Zach Taylor. That's the other guy that a lot of people say today should be gone. This one's not so cut and dry for me. If you listen to the show, my issues with him are well documented. I would like to see, I want more of an edge out of him. I know that's not who he is. I know if we saw him scream at the officials finally on Sunday. I don't love the play calling all the time, but at the same time, we know how well the offense is humming along here, so you can't really blame him that much. There have been some crunch time and some game management stuff that you hope he's learning from. It's hard because the offense does well. I'll put it this way. For me, I don't have a hard line on this. Lou Anarumo, I think, has to go. Zach Taylor, if he goes, he goes. I really don't think he will, by the way. But if he stays, I'm okay with that too. The locker room loves him. He knows what he's doing on offense. He is the offensive coordinator of this team. I know Dan Pitcher's got the title. He's not the one with the play sheet. So Zach Taylor's doing a lot of good things. Situationally, hasn't always been great. I'd like to see him get a little more, what's the word? A little more of an edge to him. Dan Campbell, send one of your grit hats down to Cincinnati. We need a little more of that. I don't know that that's totally who he is, but I feel like the frustration I see out of him in his press conferences, he'd be happier if he unloaded a little more. Now, the flip side of that, if you do want to get rid of him, kind of a similar reason to do it with Lou Anarumo, this would be a really attractive job. The head coaching position of the Cincinnati Bengals has never been more attractive. You've got a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. You've got a top 2 wide receiver in the NFL. You've got a really good pass rusher. Head coaching jobs typically don't come with all that. They typically come with a rebuild and an unproven rookie or an old veteran. This is an attractive job. So can the Bengals get someone? You don't have time here, right? You don't have a ton of time. Joe Burrow is going into year 6 now after this season. It goes quick. You don't have a ton of time here. Don't look back and say, should we have pulled the trigger a little earlier? Is there someone who can do a better job than Zach Taylor, who the Bengals think they can hire? And if the front office believes the answer is yes, you know what you got to do. Now, I didn't even write anything down about to go down to the Duke Tobin rabbit hole. I mean, maybe I'm sitting here ripping on Lou about him not developing guys. The guys who are there, not the freshest ingredients, right? Or is it that they are and they can't develop them? I don't know. There's a lot of things that none of us who aren't in that locker room would be able to tell you for absolute fact. What we can tell you is that someone's not doing something right, and the Bengals front office owes it to everyone. Forget the fans. They owe it to Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Orlando Brown Jr. and Trey Hendrickson, the guys who are literally putting their bodies on the line every week. They owe it to them to make sure they're getting the best people in the building to give this team a chance to win. They owe it to them. There are going to be people who say, they don't care. Maybe they don't. I don't know. But I'm holding them to the standard that they do, and I do think they do. They've done a lot over the past few years. They've given Orlando Brown Jr. big money. I mean, they paid DJ Reader. They've given Trey Hendrickson. We know what Joe Burrow makes. Jamar Chase is going to get paid. Don't let any idiot on Twitter tell you otherwise. But if the front office thinks they can do better at any of these positions, whether it's Zach, whether it's Lou, whether it's Duke, they owe it to everyone who wears black and orange to do it. That said, I don't think Zach Taylor's going anywhere. And look, he's been to 2 of the last 4 AFC championship games. The only reason you get rid of Zach Taylor at this point, in my opinion, is if you absolutely think you can get someone better. Sure, there's a lot of criticisms of him. I am as irritated as anyone that they had 14 days to get ready for this must-win game at home, and they give up 44 points. But again, Zach Taylor's running the show on offense. The locker room seems to like him. Situationally, he hasn't always been the best. But it could be worse. And again, 2 of the last 4 AFC championships. If you want to get rid of him, fine. I'm not going to gripe. But you better make sure the guy you bring in is going to do a better job and can elevate this team. And look, it's a difficult... I wanted to talk about this last week. It might be the most difficult head coaching position in the NFL. You've got the Bengals, who aren't going to spend like some teams and certainly aren't as good at drafting and putting together rosters as some teams. So that's already kind of a hurdle. On top of that, you've got 2 of the top 5 best run franchises in your division. Zach Taylor might have the hardest job as a head coach in the National Football League. He'd be lighting it up in the NFC South or the AFC South, but he's not in those divisions. It sucks for him that he has to deal with Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh and those 2 very, very well-run franchises. But that's life. You signed up here. You're here. The Bengals gave you a chance when probably no one else would. You got to figure it out. And if the Bengals don't think that you're the guy that can elevate this team, or if they think that someone out there can do a better job, then we know what has to happen. Simple as that. I mean, we love Zach Taylor. Awesome guy, by all accounts. Sweetheart of a man. But that's not what this is. I'm going to feel bad when the day comes that he does, however it goes. It's been a pleasure to have him here. No one would have ever guessed that he would lead the Bengals to a Super Bowl, and he did. And then he took them to the AFC Championship game a year later. But if you think you can do better, you owe it to everyone, including yourselves, including their own, to do better, to get someone who can elevate this team to that next level, to get someone who's not going to be 4-8 in December. So it's up to the guys in that room to figure out where the blame lies and correct it. Because as much as we want to sit here and talk, someone in there has to know, there's got to be an adult in the room who knows, is it Zach? Is it Lou? Is it Duke? Who is it? Let's get him out of here and get someone competent in here because we have too much talent to waste these years right now. Joe Burrow is going to be 28 this month. 28, 27. I think he's going to be December 10th. He turns 28. Goes quick, man. It's going to go quick. Speaking of Joe Burrow, he said afterward pretty much that we're going to see what we're made of in these next 5 games. It's an audition at this point with a U, A-U-D. You know what I mean. It is. Some guys are safe on this team, but does anyone want to tackle? ADG, Akeem Davis-Gaither's got a shot today, couldn't tackle. Geno Stone, kind of talking with fans on Twitter a little bit, couldn't tackle. I don't know, man. Who wants to be here? And maybe people don't. I don't know. But the grass isn't always greener. That'll be the rest of the season. 4-8 now. Not making the playoffs. Not mathematically eliminated, but only one team is. You let Jamar go for that triple crown. You pump T up because you either want to pay him big or get something for him. It's going to be a very frustrating season to watch the rest of and to look back on. Now, we've been through worse, if you're not new here, but this is the quarterback and the receiver we've been waiting on. And this is the defense. Isn't that some luck? Isn't that some Cincinnati Bengals luck right there to have a historically terrible defense when you finally get a local quarterback come in and just put up all-time numbers? And Joe said after today, he made it pretty clear. And he should. He's the guy. He's of all the guys I've really talked about here, he is hands down the only one who isn't screwing up. Who is 100% a lock that we know he's the guy they need. It's just rough. 14 days to prepare, and that's what happens. 14 days to prepare for a division rival at home. And you get beat 44-38. 44 points. I think there's been, let me make sure I've got this right. I'll pull it up here. So this is Ben Albright, who covers the NFL. The Bengals have more losses with 4, scoring 30-plus points than the rest of the NFL combined, 3. So in the NFL this year, when teams score 30 or more, they are 52-5. Is that right? Yeah. No, that can't be right. Oh, that's 33. So in the NFL this year, when teams score 33 or more, they're 51-1, with the exception of the Cincinnati Bengals. When they score 33 or more, they are 2-4. So when teams score 33 plus, they are 53-6 this year. Of those 6 losses, 4 of them belong to the Bengals. Unacceptable. Unacceptable in every way, shape, or form. And that's why, again, you can't waste this time. You can't sit on your hands. And the Bengals kind of did that this year, by the way. And I've talked about this as well. The Bengals kind of hoped they could squeeze another year or 2 out of Sam Hubbard. The Bengals kind of hoped that Cordell Volson would, maybe not regress any more than he kind of did last year. The Bengals already kind of hoped to get more out of Von Bell. What are you doing? They've hoped too much. You got to quit hoping. You got to ensure the right pieces are in place because you're not going to get another quarterback like this. Not in my life. It happens to some franchises. It's happened to the Colts. It's happened to the Packers. Look what's going on in New England. Brutal. All right, I don't have anything else to say. I'm going to go watch this Bills 49ers Snowfest. I'll have another episode out on Friday. Maybe if anything crazy happens. We'll put out another episode or something. I don't know. Just a sad year. A wasted season. An absolutely wasted season. And someone's got to pay the consequence. Someone's got to pay the price for that. And unfortunately, that's going to be Lou Anarumo at a minimum. Now, more firepower against Zach Taylor. I forgot I looked this up. In the Bengals' last 10 AFC North games, they are 2-8. So that's dating back to last year. A lot of those are with Jake Browning. But still, in the last 10 AFC North games, they're 2-8. You want to guess who the 2 wins are against? You know who they're against. That garbage franchise that plays in Cleveland, who I root for sometimes. But you should, that should be the minimum. Is that not the floor to beat them? Bengals move Cody Ford over to take over for Volson today, of course. Whatever. Tried something. So, Steelers are scoring 23 points a game coming into this one. They nearly doubled it today. Nearly doubled it. Yeah, the refs suck. Whatever. They suck every week. It's sad, man. High expectations. Bengals are in Dallas on Monday night. I will be at that game. And, a lot of the wind really got sucked out of that sail today. But, it'll be cool. I want to see the stadium, so cool. All right, I appreciate you tuning in. I hope, whatever. What are you going to do? Sit here and complain on a podcast, right? We'll be back on Friday, and we'll talk about, I don't know. We'll see if there's any changes made. I don't think there will be at this point. I don't know. We'll see. It wouldn't be, I don't know. I really don't know. There has to be eventually. Now, if we get to the point in January where no changes are made, then we go insane. But at this point, you already pissed the season down the toilet, so does it matter if Lou is there for another 5 games or so? That's that. The podcast is called In the Jungle. If you like it, give it a subscription, rate it, do whatever you want. Send it to a friend who also wants to be miserable. My name is Matt Edwards. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate all the comments, all the feedback. It's fun stuff. If you are a Chiefs fan who wound up in my mentions today on Twitter, good God, are you a loser? Please do something better. Is that what you're doing? Do something better. Do something better. Your team is 10-1. Luckiest team in the world. You know what the Bengals would give to get like a fraction of your luck? And you're sitting here just being the biggest trolls? What a miserable life it must be to live in Kansas City, Missouri, the fountain capital of the United States. Cool. Nice fountains. All right, it's In the Jungle. I'm Matt Edwards. We'll see you again probably on Friday. Maybe before then, we'll see. I don't know. Subscribe and find out. Goodbye.